In the month of June 7, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was started. The Declaration of Independence was to state that all men are created free and equal and possesses the same inherent and natural rights. Among these rights were freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Things that led up to needing independence was the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act was making people pay stamps for all their natural goods such as tea and cards.
More things that led to needing independence were the Battle of Bunker Hill and the Boston Tea Party.
These things and many more led to the colonies wanting to be free. The colonies were going to explore ways to receiving their freedom.
On September 5, 1774, until October 26, 1774, the Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, discussing freedom. Some colonies wanted immediate independence, no matter what the cost was. Others were still loyal to Britain and to King George III, even though they did not like the British taxation without representation. They wanted to avoid an all-out war with England.
The Second Continental Congress formed a committee to tell the people why the colonies wanted to be free from King George III.
King George III didn't agree with the Continental Congress on freedom.
The king wanted more tax money, but the colonies did not want to give their money to King George III. The colonies did not like the king because he kept taxing them for no apparent reason. The colonies deserved freedom. Then, the Second Continental Congress appointed 5 men to write a document based on freedom.
Those 5 men are Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Robert R. Livingston, and Roger Sherman.
Their job was to write a document stating freedom for the colonies and all the complaints from the colonies towards King George III.
The Declaration of Independence was written in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1776. The Declaration of Independence was signed on July 1, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence was adopted on July 4, 1776 by the Continental Congress.
The primary author of the Declaration of Independence was Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson was an American founding father, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, and the 3rd President of the United States of America.
The Declaration of Independence is important because it states that a government exists for the benefit of the people and that all men are created equal.
The Declaration of Independence is regarded as the best written statement of individual rights in history. Some of the reactions that took place after a Declaration of Independence was that the colonies destroyed the statue of King George III and the citizens loved the freedom they got.
Outcomes that took place because of the Declaration of Independence was women's suffrage and President Lincoln.
Women's suffrage had a famous quote from the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and so are women.
The Declaration of Independence made an outcome for President Lincoln when he was in the Civil War trying to fight for men and women's rights.
President Lincoln wanted freedom for all people, even if they are black and white. All men are created equal and possesses the same inherent rights.
The purpose of the Declaration of Independence was exploring ways to tell the colonists that loyalty to Britain was a lost cause. At the beginning, we had small battles like Lexington and Concord, April 19, 1775.
In the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17, 1775. In the Battle of Quebec on December 31, 1775. Northern and Southern colonies knew that the war was real and we had to be unified in our efforts to win. The Middle colonies thought as late as May 1776 that they could still get freedom.
Even the excess of the British government, many felt that the war was not necessary. Northern and Southern colonies pushed the idea of the Declaration to show the need and justification for going to war.
The representatives in Congress that believed the time for separation had come wanted a way to clearly state to their siblings the reason why a break with Great Britain was necessary.
One purpose of the Declaration of Independence then was to fully state the reasons for separation with Great Britain to both friends and enemies, and to persuade them that the separation was morally justified and that they should join the cause.
The Declaration of Independence was to assist the Second Continental Congress in obtaining aid from foreign countries. This was exploring different ways to independence.
John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston turned to their colleague Thomas Jefferson to draft a formal declaration, which they submitted with a few corrections to Congress. On July 2nd, Congress voted for independence and proceeded to debate the wording of the Declaration of Independence which was with the notable of Jefferson's condemnation of slavery, unanimously approved on the evening of July.
Every 4th of July, America celebrates not the actual act of independence, but rather the public proclamation of the principles behind the act.
The Declaration of Independence has 3 parts: the famous preamble, a list of charges against King George III, and a conclusion. The preamble states the self-evident truths, rights, equality, the pursuit of happiness, and the right of revolution. The 27 charges against King George III present examples of the violation of those principles. The stirring conclusion calls for duty, action, and sacrifice. The conclusion also states people are free. 50 years later, Jefferson described the Declaration as an expression of American mind. All its authority rests on the harmonizing sentiments of the day. The Declaration weaves together the philosophy, theology, and political history of both American mind and American experience.
Thomas Jefferson was chosen by the Continental Congress to write the Declaration of Independence because he was the best writer, a good leader, and had few enemies. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress signed the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is an important part of American democracy because it contains the ideals and goals of our nation.
Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence in June 1776. He knew his fellow colonists had done their best to reconcile their differences with their British king. From signing peaceful petitions against the notorious Stamp Act in 1765 to violently throwing 300 chests of tea into Boston Harbor in 1773, they had tried everything they could come up with. Yet the more these British subjects demanded dignity, the more invasive and sickly their monarchy became.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, Jefferson famously wrote with the editorial oversight from committee members Ben Franklin and John Adams, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Dignity is the heart of this belief that God, not a government nor a king, gives humanity its rights and beliefs. Massachusetts minister Nathaniel Emmons describes it this way: the dignity of a man appears from his bearing the image of his Maker.
Jefferson had one last word for the king after the Declaration of Independence. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free person.
The Declaration of Independence has great significance to the American people because it is what led to our independence from King George III. The Declaration of Independence stated certain ideals that the colonists believed were important for man to have, such as liberty and equality.
The late 18th century or 1700s was a time in North America with many groups of people seeking liberty. Thomas Jefferson's famous for, certainly Thomas Jefferson did a lot of the writing of it, but he's not the only person seeking liberty, and it's not just a few people. There are people throughout the different colonies who are petitioning their colonial legislatures for liberty, so it's a broader-based movement. And I think the other important thing to keep in mind is there are many different people in North America seeking liberty and increased freedom and independence. Abigail Adams is famous for having written Remember the Ladies, speaking of women arguing for the need for greater liberty and involvement and participation in the workings of their society. African Americans are also petitioning for freedom and liberty at the same time. Particularly people who are servants of somebody like Thomas Jefferson would hear his conversations talking about liberty, and they would say, we want liberty too. And if Jefferson and his white elite leaders wanted freedom from enslavement by the British, certainly the slaves themselves knew that they wanted it as well. So they petitioned many people to get their own liberty. And similarly, Native American people are seeking liberty from Americans who may want to move into their land, and they're arguing for liberty. Joseph Brant is famous for doing that. Not to mention loyalists who are supportive of the English want liberty to stick with England. So it's not a whole unified movement, but there are many people at this time wanting liberty, freedom, independence, but sometimes from each other. And I think that's an important, larger point about the era. Thomas Jefferson and his group of people, the founding fathers, are doing the work that many people are doing. Their approach and who they want liberty from is different. They want it from King George and from England, but many people in the colonies are seeking liberty during this time.